Fun with Bob.
Fun with finance. Come on. Let's work. Play games with me.
It may not be the play.
May not be the play. Hang on. Get in there.
You're the tech genius.
Here we go. Okay.
That's why they took it.
As the finance officer of my chapter, what should I know and what are my responsibilities? I'm going to bring up some things that are up there, and then we'll go through each and we'll talk about some special things. But just like every class that we have, please participate. If you have any questions, ask them right away. It's going to be different for all of us. We know that at different posts, different chapters. So let's make sure that we kind of get information from everybody. I'm not going to read through all these. This is all the stuff that we're going to cover here coming up very soon. Talks about all the different things that we have to do as chapter finance officers. Finances will be derived from membership dues, sales of merchandise, and other revenue sources. What does everybody pay for their dues?
15.
15.
20.
20. 30. Ours is 25. So that's what I'm saying. We're all different. Some have more for those that have motorcycles, and they pay less for supporters. I've heard a bunch of different things. I've actually heard of one chapter that does monthly dues. That would be awful hard to take care of if everybody was coming in and paying their dues on a monthly basis. How about they paid up for life for 140?
100.
100?
150.
150? Ours is 125. Just remember, paid up for life is only good at your chapter. If you decide to leave that chapter and go to another chapter, you either start all over again. One woman said, well, what if I ask them and they accept it? That's a different story. If the incoming chapter wants to say, yes, you're good, that's fine. Most of them want your money. Let me just check. Sounds like somebody was at the door. Oh, okay. Were you coming in here? Over there? Okay. How many sell merchandise at their chapters? Okay. What kind of merchandise do you sell?
T-shirts, vests, license plate.
Okay. Do you do that through the post, or you do it yourself during the meetings and the rest of the stuff?
During the meetings.
During the meetings?
Yeah.
Okay. You get much out of it, or is it pretty much an offset on the cost?
Also, just
Pretty much offset. Yeah, it's pretty much a washing. Yeah. That's the only thing about that. I mean, how much you can only sell so many times. You get a new person in, you're going to get some, but you're not going to get a lot out of it. Where do we make our big money?
Question real quick.
Yes. Okay.
Poker runs and dinners.
Hang a second.
Some of our members, and I'm sure it's different for every post, our merchandise, other posts, do you guys sell it strictly to writers or to anybody?
Anybody.
We're having back and forth.
I see no reason, just like anything else, that you can't sell it to anybody.
Well, we had
Revenue.
issues,
Well-
well, we had issues come up, someone's wearing our merchandise and they go somewhere and act stupid and it reflects on us.
Yeah.
So-
Well, let's look at it this way. What if you go to a post and they have a shirt that's for Red Shirt Fridays?
Yep.
And it's post 252, which is in Seminole, okay? They gave me a shirt. Now, if I wear that and go get in trouble somewhere, they're going to look at it and say, well, those are people from 252 getting in trouble. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you can buy shirts anywhere that say something from the post. Almost every post sells a shirt. So,
Or you go to Goodwill and.
you can go to Goodwill. Yeah, there's a lot of Goodwill too. So, right.
It's revenue for,
It's revenue.
It's revenue, no matter who you sell
We,
it
we
to.
can't control what they do with it, unfortunately.
Well,
You know?
we've got, our members are split right now,
Yeah.
and we're trying to come up
Then
with a
That would
solution.
come down to your standing rules.
Yeah.
In your standing rules, you could
You
make
could,
it
you
a
could put
posting
in there, I
and
mean,
they'll
if you
sell
want,
it
if
to
you only wanna sell it to riders, that's fine. But what if a rider from another chapter comes and wants to buy one?
He's a rider.
He's a rider. But if he puts that shirt on and goes someplace else, it's the same thing, so.
What if one of your actual writers goes somewhere? And-
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
We'll spank
We're
it.
trying to get input.
yep, that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Our major money sources are always going to be poker runs, raffles, and dinners.
Yeah, we do cornhole, we do pretty good with that.
Well, that's another good one, okay, I didn't think about that.
Pool tournaments.
Pool tournaments. One of the things that I'm always very clear about when I talk about those things, when you do your flyers, and you put down that is for a certain thing, such as Special Olympics, make sure that all the monies, after you have paid for your costs, go to Special Olympics. Somebody said, well, what if I want to do something to help the post? Maybe the air conditioner's gone down. No, that's fine. Yeah, you can. But put down there that we are raising it for
Oh,
the air conditioner at the post. As long as you're clear with what you're giving it to, that is not a problem. What you cannot do is put Special Olympics down there and then give it to the post for the air conditioner. Can't do that.
How about
It's
if
gotta
you
be
did-
very clear and very specific.
how about if you just put general fund?
If you put general funds, that's okay. Again,
Just gotta put something on.
you gotta put something, but if you are very specific and say, this is for the POWMIA Foundation Memorial, it has to go to that. It cannot go to something else. You gotta be clear about that.
now, I do have a question on that.
Yes,
If you have, let's say we have a run for Special Olympics,
okay,
but we tag it as general fund,
okay.
but a portion of the general fund will be going to Special Olympics.
Then
And
you,
then like a 50-50 split, can that be done?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. You can have a poker run or dinner or anything, you can split the funds between the two things. As long as you specify, you're fine. And again, that's after your costs. Make sure you take your costs out. A lot of places don't, but that's up to you. All right. Checks issued by the chapter must have post-finance officer designee as one of the signatories. Why is that?
You're a program of the
We're part
American
of the post.
We are a program of the American Legion. They have to have availability and access to our stuff. If you have an existing account, you can have it at a different bank. You don't have to have it at the bank where the post has theirs. However, either the finance officer or somebody from the post must have availability to that funds. They must be able to see it. In our case, we've got it all at Regions Bank. Our finance officer sends in a monthly report, we'll talk about that. But the finance officer of the post can go on and he can look at all the funds, he can see exactly. Now, I always ask this question. Can the post take your funds without asking you?
Yes.
Yes? And no.
They did,
They did. Okay.
they did.
Without coming in and asking you at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
The commander and the finance said, no, the riders, that's just the money that's sitting there that we're gonna allocate. When we went to use it, we found out the account was closed a couple months before. So, so now, as far as my chapter goes, we don't have a bank account. So any funds we get, it goes in the minutes as allocated. We give the check to the post. The post then writes the check for what we allocate the money for.
Yeah, that's
I
kind
know
of,
it's a,
yeah, that's kind of a shame. That can a post take it? Absolutely. Should they know? And I had a post commander that told me he was going to take our money one time, and I said, "You'll take it one time." And he said, "What do you mean by that?" And I said, "If you don't have the courtesy to come into my meeting and sit down and tell me why you need the money, and let's be honest, we've all had that happen, and most times we've given them more money than they asked for. Because how many times have we as riders bailed out a post for things that they needed? But if you're not going to come in and ask me, and you're going to take it, the next time there's probably not going to be much funds for it for you to take. And in many cases, just like our sons and like us, we probably got $13,000 that's in a scholarship fund that we give away. It's earmarked for that. So if you take that away from us, we again can't do what we are planning on doing every year to do the scholarship.
and that's the sole purpose of you being there.
That's right. Yes, sir.
if you have your money earmarked for a certain project,
Yes.
they can't take that money.
Oh, yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Because you're only earmarking it on your financial records. It's not specifically set aside in a fund that's, it's in it. We have like a general fund, and our finance officer takes and puts out what each amount is, so it's 13,000 towards that. It's listed there, but it's all in one fund. So yeah, they could come in and they could take it all.
Even if it's earmarked for like Reach Across America, they can
Now,
take
wouldn't that be a conflict if you ever got audited? You know, you bring in 50,000, and I'm throwing a number, 50,000 for the
Yeah.
Special Olympics. You
Yeah.
tag it, the post comes in, they take it.
Yeah,
Now, we just, we earmarked that money for Special Olympics, now the post got it. But, excuse me, but when it comes down to the audit, and they audit it, and they're gonna go, well,
Yeah.
where did this money go?
exactly. It would be, and it would go against the post. This is why, and I've talked about this each time, this is why I'm very concerned when we have riders, and please don't take this the wrong way, but riders that are members of the Legion, the Auxiliary, and the Sons, and do not attend Legion, Auxiliary, or Sons meetings. We can go as both. I'm a Legionnaire, I'm a Son, and I'm a rider. But I can go to my Legion meeting, and if they start talking about rider stuff when they're not familiar with something, I can say, no, this is what's going on. It's the same for the Sons and the Auxiliary. It really helps. So please, I know we're riders, and we're riders for one reason, because we are a member of the other three. So please, if you can, attend those meetings and be a spokesperson for the riders. Existing checking account, everybody knows that each year you're gonna have to take your minutes that says who's the new elected officers. You're gonna have to go to the bank, you're gonna have to change signatory cards, you're gonna have to do all that. Please remember, as it states up here, the post should have one or two people also on that list. I know at our post, it was always the post commander and the finance officer. Recommend the usage of 2 signatures. That's a good recommendation, but ask any banker, they don't care.
They know.
If there's one signature on there, and it's a legal signature, they don't care. I know at our post, I know our auxiliary, because my wife is the auxiliary finance person, they require 2 signatures, but if she just signed it, put it in, the bank's gonna take it. They don't care.
As far as a deposit or a debit?
That's normally for a debit. Yeah. Must file a financial statement detailing receipts and distributions to the finance officer every month. So each month, you have to take and send it in. And let's be honest, even with a large post or a large chapter, how many filings do we have a month? How many deposits or withdrawals do we have in a month? Max maybe 5 if we had a busy month. So it's not like you can do it on an Excel spreadsheet. Make sure that you're accounting for both your deposits, your disbursements, identify your expenditures, reconcile your bank account, and send it in. Yes, sir.
So with that being said, because we're a program like Sons,
Yep.
and we're supposed to give the post or the post adjutant a copy of our minutes.
Yep.
Depending on when it falls in the minutes, so at least they got a copy.
Yep.
When you do your finance report, you can just put a one-line thing, beginning balance, debits, credits, ending balance. And if they need the finance statement, the bank statement, you can attach it, but with that one line, does that suffice to?
What I would do-
the whole finance report to the post?
I would ask your finance officer at the post if that is good enough, because they are the ones that are going to have
Instead
to.
of like itemizing the whole thing, if you need it itemized, here's a bank statement.
Once again, I would go to the post finance officer and I would say, is this acceptable or do you want more? Okay, just to make sure it happens. Retain your receipts. Please make sure you send that to them. Now, I did have a post the other day, interestingly enough, they didn't want any finance report from the chapter. They said, we don't care. And I told them, I said, protect yourself. I said, what you do is go back to them and say you'd like to provide them a finance report every month. If they say we don't care, we don't need it, send it anyways in an email. That way you know you have done it. So if somebody comes back later and says, you don't send us a finance report, you can say, I've sent it every single month,
Yep.
you're just not utilizing it.
So, with that being said, if you have to do your 1099 at the end of the year, you have to include, the post needs to include the sons and the writers'
Thank
account
you.
information, so they still, at least once a year, need to know the ending balance at whatever time frame you're doing it, correct? Or-
That's correct.
Okay.
That's, and we'll talk
So
about
they
that a little
can't
further.
negate it, so,
Why, and we're gonna talk about this in a minute,
oh, okay.
but why do they need that information? Why do they need the financial information?
For your, taxes and for your, end of the year report.
Your end of year report, but also for your taxes, because we don't, as a chapter, file anything.
CPR.
We don't,
Under the EIN for the post, right?
the EIN is underneath them, so they have to do everything for the chapter, for the Sons, for the Legion, and in some cases, there was a group, one place had Boy Scouts. So the Boy Scouts fall under it too. That's all under their tax information. We don't have to worry about that.
What
Yes.
about BOIs? Does, seeing our riders are using the post EIN number.
Correct.
Does the chapter need to file a BOI? That's something federal. I had to do it at the post level, cause I'm a post finance officer as well.
BOI.
Let me pull it up here. I forget what it stands for.
Avoid?
But it's mainly like sunbiz.org at the federal level.
I
That's
am not
exactly
aware
what
of
it
that.
is.
Not, maybe it might be a post issue, but I can't see the chapter having to do that, because everything that should be done at that level would be by the post, not by the chapter.
Yeah, that's what I was getting
Yeah.
at.
Yeah. What this says up here is that that the chapter can incur no debt for the post. What that means, let's just say that you want to have a raffle and you want to get a motorcycle to raffle. And you go to Harley Davidson and you ask them for the bike and they give you a bike, or they're going to give you a bike, but it's going to cost you $6,000, $7,000 to purchase that bike. The chapter on its own cannot do that. Here's the reason. If I am that Harley Davidson dealer, and if you tell me, okay, I'll give you the money, give us the bike up front, we're going to do all the raffle tickets, and then at the end we'll pay you. Well, but guess what? If you only sell $4,000 worth of tickets, a $7,000 bike, they're not coming after the chapter, or they will, but they're going to go after the post, because the post is the one. So we cannot incur a debt for the post. What we have to do, this is where, again, we go to the post meetings. The rider's director or the members go in there, they say, look, this is what we want to do. Can we do this? They then have to go to their general membership, and it has to be approved.
So with that being said, to put on the grand scale, that's what the riders are doing at the department level, but the raffle at the state rally had to get approval
Correct.
from the department
Correct.
to do what we're doing.
Correct.
Is if, exactly what you're saying, if it's incurred, then the state or the department's on the hook.
It's exactly what happened with it, exactly, it's the exact same thing. So we cannot incur a debt as a chapter. We have to go to the post, they have to approve it.
Talking about beneficial ownership
Yeah.
information report.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the
As a sporting organization, we get to use their EIN. What's their EIN good number, their number good for?
Every tax rate.
Taxes. Tax exempt. You guys may have your own things with Lowe's, with some of the other places. A lot of times you can use the post. If you ask the post, they will tell you where it is. Walmart, almost every place will allow you to do it. The reason we have that is because we are a nonprofit and tax exempt 501c19 war veterans organization. That is why we are allowed to do that. Each post required to file the IRS form 990. That is the post that does that. We don't have to do that as a chapter.
That's why they need our information.
That's why they need our information. We don't have to do that as a Sons. Does the auxiliary have to do that?
Yeah.
Yes.
They're different.
They are separate.
Yep.
They do have to file their own 990. because they do not fall under that EIN number. That is a post EIN number. And this is one of the things we talked about. If they don't want to take the finance report, let's just say we have a post or a chapter out there that's got money in the bank. The post isn't taking that information or anything else. If 2 or 3 years down the road they come down and they say, well, why wasn't this all reported? The IRS could basically put a lien on the post for taxes not paid because they didn't pay attention to what the chapter and the sons were doing. So,
Or not file the paperwork.
or not filing paperwork.
Right.
Okay? That's part of the reason.
Yeah.
And once again, the Florida Department of Revenue issues the Consumer Certificate of Exemption. Now, this is if the American Legion Riders chapter was to be dissolved for some reason, whether it is suspended. Of course, there's an interesting thing. If they suspend you, they're probably going to stop you from doing anything right away. You're probably not going to be able to do anything with your funds. And the post will probably just take those funds.
Another reason why the post finance office is on the account.
Exactly. Because we operate under the EIN and it is a program, if we are going away, if for some reason, and let's be honest, it can happen, there are posts that age out. I mean, we could have writers that get to a certain age and they just can't bring a chapter together anymore, so they go to someplace else. If the chapter is going down, then it is up to the members of the chapter to decide where that money goes. Now, if they decide, okay, the post needs it, we're going to give it to the post. That's fine. But if they decide, look, we've got things out there that we've helped in the past, we've helped Fisher House, we've helped these other places, and that's where you want the money to go, then as a chapter, you should make that decision, downsize the money, and make sure it's closed out. It says post finance or other designated signatory permission may need to be granted. Once again, if we are attending the meetings and we are being honest with them, both at the Legion, the Sons, and the Auxiliary, and they know what's happening, there's not going to be a problem. Any questions on any of that? Okay. The duties of the finance officer: maintain accurate records, deposit funds in an assigned bank account, and distribute funds as approved, provide that financial report to the executive committee on a monthly basis. Once again, if they don't want to accept it, email it to them anyways. That way it covers you. I can't think of a reason they wouldn't want to take it, because once again, it's on them to make sure that the 990s and everything else is done properly. So if they don't want to take it, send it to them anyways. That way if they ever come back, the chapter's protected. And collect all dues as required. Sometimes I find dues are the most difficult thing, because the yearly people, you got to keep track of who your lifetime people are and all the rest of the stuff, but do your best on making sure you're collecting your dues, because it is an important thing. It brings money into the chapter. Everybody's aware what this is, correct? Yep. Okay. Please, when you get it, make sure you look at the date.
Yeah.
Somebody was in here the other day, and they had the one from the post, and it expired at the end of the month. Now it's for 5 years, but it expired at the end of this month. And they were like, okay, yes ma'am.
Should the finance officer keep a copy of this?
Yes. And as a matter of fact, what we do a lot of times, like if somebody gets a copy, run off a bunch of copies. You can give them to people.
I keep it on my phone.
Some keep it on their phone. Because we need this, especially when we're coming in here for summit and stuff. Now, one of the problems we run into is if you don't put it on a post or chapter card, sometimes they won't give you the tax exempt status. So that's why a lot of times I know at our post, when we go to convention, they purchase or they go in and they block like 5, 6, 7 rooms for us so that it's on the card, and then if they're not paying for all the days, just like some posts got money, some don't. Some will say we'll give you 2 days, some will give you the whole time. But if they say, okay, we're going to give you 2 days, you stay 4, we have to pay back the other 2 days. But we get the tax exemption and we do the rest of the stuff on that.
Yeah. And that's not issued automatically. You have to apply for it, or you have to put the paperwork in to receive it, because it's not an automatic
Once
self-renewal
again,
type thing.
that is the
And
post
you can get
requirement.
because you can get caught
Yes.
by like you said, it expired, and you go like, well, what happened? well, we didn't get anything. Well, you know,
They normally send us something,
I know, you just have to be aware that
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah, they can send you a letter, hey.
they normally send you a letter a couple times, I mean, and say, hey, remember that this is
But
coming
it's
up.
at the post level.
Yeah, it's a post, it's,
Yeah, but we should get it from our post.
yes,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
and there's no reason the post should not give it to you.
Okay.
If the post is saying, no, we can't give it to you, no.
Oh, yeah.
Get it from somebody. Somebody around the post will have it. The post adjutant or the post finance officer should give it to you. And every group should have that as far as the Sons, the Riders, and the Legion.
Take a picture of it.
Yeah, you can take a picture of it, whatever. How do I record donated items? Once again, if somebody, let's say somebody has a motorcycle and they decide they want to donate it to the chapter. How do we know how much that motorcycle is worth?
Blue book.
We can go Blue Book, we find out, we put that amount, that is a contribution. We want to give them their tax form that says this is what it's worth. If we then turn around and let's say it was a $4,000 motorcycle, and we raffle it off and make $10,000, that's fine. The donation was for $4,000, but what we make, that is a separate issue. At least, that way we keep track of both sides of it. Items are considered the assets or contributions, must be reported. Once again, this is why we have to have the finance report given to the post, because it is up to them to list it on the 990. It's not up to us. Our hands are pretty much washed from that because that's the finance officer's responsibility. And please provide a receipt to the donor if they ask for one. Sometimes they don't, but if they ask for one, please give them one. There's going to be something coming up that's going to show you what one looks like. You can certainly use something like this or make up your own. Please make sure you provide that for any donations given. One of the most important things with this is thanking whoever gave that to you with a letter, with a plaque, with something, so that maybe next time they have something again, they will donate it to you. I tell this because at our post we have a member of the Sons who doesn't come in very often, but happens to have a lot of money. They make a donation to us every year of $10,000 to the post, with the stipulation that we give it away to veterans causes. When we know it's coming in, we have almost always had the causes set so that when we get the money, we vote right away to give it away. It works well because that person gets to say they made a donation. We then get to say we made a donation. And in the cases that we do, our Sons happen to do a putt-putt tournament to raise funds for Special Olympics and for other things. We donate half of it back to them. And then guess what? They get to then donate it to Special Olympics. So everybody gets part of the pie. And it's the same thing with the riders. It works out well for all of us. We do what we need to do, but please, make sure they get this form so they can write their taxes off. Make sure it has the EIN number and everything else on there. And please thank them. If you want to see them come back around again, you better thank them. I love this one. Winnings of over $600. Let's say we have a poker run, and winning hand is $750. By law, it says we are required to make sure that we give them the 1099. How many chapters do that?
We have.
Do you really?
Yep.
Okay.
Especially for a Queen of Hearts. And
The Queen. I would be willing to say that most posts will do it for the Queen of Hearts. I would be willing to bet that those machines that we have in our posts that we don't have in our posts, that pay sometimes well over $600, that we don't give them anything to sign. There was one post that was interesting. He came in here, he says their machines actually have a thing that when it gets to over $600, it kicks out and says you have to go cash in. and you have to sign for the tax form. Machines do it. All I'm gonna tell you on this is a requirement. This is what it says has to be done, but I'd be willing to say that most nobody does that. Just be careful because they should report it, it should be done. Yes, sir.
I think you'll notice that like the pull tabs,
What's that?
on the pull tabs,
Yep,
most of the machines will only go to $5.99.
Yeah,
that's true.
it was, years ago was before that, I mean above that.
Yep.
And they all like
Yep.
500 is the max now.
Well, you know, I've asked this question, how many people have been to National? Do you know what we get paid when we go to National?
It's $5.99.
$5.99. I defy anybody to go to National for $599.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're gonna stay, I don't know what you're gonna eat, but you're not gonna do it for $599.
Yeah, years ago it was the 600, then because of that.
It's because of that, they went to $599.
That's gotta get their money.
The IRS always wants their money. So, please be aware of that, and non-payment could end up with a tax lien on the post and on everybody else. Personal donations. This is kind of interesting. Your personal donations, okay, I'm buying raffle tickets, I'm buying food, I'm buying auction items, I'm registering for things. That is not a cash donation. Now, I can write that off at the end of the year on my taxes as charitable contributions, but it is not counted as part of the chapter's cash donations. That all falls under just the raffles and the rest of the stuff. Any questions? Quiet class this morning.
Really.
Hungover.
Hung over?
I'm not gonna lie.
Any questions at all? Wow.
No, great class. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Please, thank you.
What is recommended, like, I know probably every chapter is different, but, if you have a credit card or a
Yes.
check, book, is that usually kept with the finance, or does somebody else usually keep that too?
I can only speak for my chapter. Our finance person is the only one who keeps that. She has access to the checking account. She writes the checks and does the rest of the stuff. There are other signatories on there in case she is on vacation, and they have access to sign it then. But other than that, she controls, and as far as the card goes, most of the time we were using the card for purchase of food to do our breakfast, and that was normally in the safe in the bartender's office, so that they could grab that to go purchase the food, then put the card back.
And even still on the card, you can put a limit on it, so
Right.
if not, if it goes to the limit or just above, then it's an alert to,
Correct.
post finance or chapter director.
In our case, ours was set at $400, just so we could, yeah. The only reason I know all that is my wife is the finance officer. So. Any other questions?
So, yeah,
Yes, please.
piggybacking off of her, so when the finance officer changes that, when you go to the bank.
That's when we talked
Should we
about.
fall on, what do you do if somebody's not willing to give that up?
Okay, here's the thing. Please remember, in your minutes, you put down who is elected. Okay? It doesn't matter whether they want to give it up or not. When you go to the bank, you show them the fact that elections took place and that Rick was the finance officer before, Terry's the finance officer now. Whether Rick wants to give it up or not doesn't matter. The voice of the chapter has spoken, and this is the new person, and they should take him or her off and put the new person on.
But
And
don't
you-
you have to go with the commander, because it's under their,
Most times, if the commander, if it's all the same bank, what the commander should be able to do is go say to whoever the person is, say, we just held elections, we're gonna have new people coming in, we're just making you aware of it. I know we do that at ours, so each group can go in separately, bring their list, and then they will normally ask, are these the right people? So they'll check, or should check, or at least the finance officer or the post.
Our bank asked for a copy of the minutes.
Absolutely, and
I
they
was just
should.
gonna say that.
That,
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Make sure it's in the minutes, when the election
Yep.
took place, who was elected, you bring a copy with you, give it to them, and then they can do the signatory cards. Any other questions at all? Thank you very much, folks. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Everybody